Good morning, friends. Let me ask you something. Have you ever woken up feeling like your knees or hips are just not on your team anymore? Maybe you hesitated to get out of bed because your joints felt stiff, or you thought twice about taking that morning walk you used to love. If that sounds familiar, I want you to know you're not alone. And more importantly, it doesn't have to stay that way. You see, I've had so many conversations with folks over 70 who tell me, I just want to keep gardening, or I want to play with my grandkids without worrying about my knees giving out. And that's exactly why we're talking today about 5 pain-free habits to keep your joints healthy at 70 plus. Because here's the truth, your joints don't have to hold you back. With a few simple tweaks to your daily routine, you can move easier, feel stronger, and keep doing the things that light up your life. Now, before we dive in, let me be clear. This isn't about complicated exercises or restrictive diets. These are practical, doable habits that fit into your life as it is today. We'll start with the first 3, and in the next part of our conversation, we'll cover the rest. Sound good? Let's kick things off with something I call moving like water. You know how a river stays strong and clear by flowing steadily? Your joints work the same way. The worst thing we can do for them is sit still for too long. But here's the catch. It's not about running marathons or lifting heavy weights. In fact, some of the best movements for your joints are the simplest. Take my friend Margaret, for example. She's 78, loves her morning crossword, and used to joke that her favorite exercise was rolling her eyes at the news. But after her knees started aching, her doctor told her to try gentle chair yoga. At first she thought, yoga? At my age? But guess what? Within weeks, she was bending down to pet her cat without groaning. And she even convinced her book club to join her. The key here is low-impact, consistent movement. Think seated leg lifts while watching TV, slow arm circles while your coffee brews, or even just shifting your weight from heel to toe while brushing your teeth. The goal? Keep that synovial fluid, your joint's natural lubricant, flowing. Because when you move, you're not just strengthening muscles. You're giving your joints the oil change they need. Now let's talk about something we all love, food. But this isn't about dieting or cutting out your favorite meals. It's about adding in a few powerhouse ingredients that act like body mechanics for your joints. Take turmeric, for instance. My neighbor Bill calls it his golden secret. He sprinkles it on his eggs every morning. Says it's cut his knee swelling in half. Why? Because turmeric's got a compound called curcumin that's like a fire extinguisher for joint inflammation. And you don't need fancy supplements, just a pinch in your soups, stews, or even smoothies. But turmeric's not the only star. Fatty fish like salmon or sardines. They're packed with omega-3s that act like WD-40 for your joints. And if you're not a fish fan, walnuts or flax seeds work too. Oh, and here's a pro tip. Pair these foods with a little black pepper or olive oil. It helps your body absorb the good stuff better. Now, I'm not saying you have to overhaul your entire pantry. Start small. Next time you're at the store, grab a tin of sardines or a bag of frozen cherries. They're fantastic for fighting inflammation. Your joints will thank you with every step you take. All right, let's talk about something we all do every day without thinking. How we bend, lift, and carry things. Because here's the thing, small tweaks to how you move can make a big difference in protecting your joints. For example, ever lean over the sink to wash dishes and feel that twinge in your lower back? Try this. Keep one hand on the counter and shift your weight onto your front foot. It takes pressure off your spine and knees instantly. Or when getting out of a chair, use your leg muscles instead of pushing off with your hands. Think stand up tall like a puppet strings pulling your head up. And here's a game changer, the power of pacing. My dad used to say, why make 3 trips when one will do? Until he threw out his shoulder carrying groceries. Now he swears by breaking tasks into smaller steps. Carry 1 bag at a time. Sit while chopping veggies. Your joints aren't trophies to be stored on a shelf. They're trusty tools. And just like good tools, they last longer when you use them wisely. Now we've covered 3 powerful habits so far. moving gently, eating for joint health, and moving smarter in daily life. But we're just getting started. Because in the next part of our chat, I'll share 2 more habits that can truly transform how your joints feel, including one surprising trick that takes just 5 minutes a day. So put the kettle on, grab your notebook, and I'll meet you right back here. Trust me, you won't want to miss this. Welcome back, everyone. I hope you've had a chance to try some of those gentle movements, or maybe even sneak a little turmeric into your scrambled eggs. Now let's keep this conversation going with 2 more habits that'll help your joints feel like they've been given a second wind. And I promise, these are so simple, you'll wonder why you haven't tried them sooner. Let's start with something we all think we're doing enough of. But trust me, most of us aren't. I'm talking about hydration. Now I know what you're thinking. Water? Really? That's it? But hear me out. Your joints are like sponges. When they're dehydrated, they get stiff and creaky, like an old door hinge that hasn't been oiled. But when they're well hydrated, they glide smoothly, quietly, like they've been dipped in butter. Here's the trick. It's not just about gulping 8 glasses a day. It's about consistent sipping. My Aunt Edna swears by her little and often rule. She keeps a small mason jar of water with a slice of lemon on her windowsill and takes a sip every time she walks past it. By noon, she's refilled it twice without even thinking about it. And if plain water feels like a chore, mix it up. Herbal teas, broths, or even water-rich foods like cucumbers or watermelon count. Oh, and here's a pro tip. If your knees or hips ache at night, try drinking a glass of water before bed. One of my viewers, Clara, told me it cut her morning stiffness in half. Turns out I wasn't creaky, I was just thirsty, she said. Now isn't that something? Now let's talk about strength. And no, I don't mean bench pressing or CrossFit. I'm talking about building a little armor around your joints to protect them. Think of it like reinforcing the foundation of a house. The stronger the muscles around your knees, hips, and shoulders, the less strain on the joints themselves. Take my buddy Frank. He's 82 and still chops his own firewood. His secret? Resistance bands. He does simple leg presses and seated rows while watching the morning news. Feels like I'm tricking my body into thinking I'm 60 again, he laughs. And the best part? You don't even need fancy equipment. A couple of soup cans or a backpack filled with books works wonders for arm exercises. Here's a move you can try right now. Sit tall in your chair, loop a resistance band under your feet, and pull the ends up toward your chest like you're rowing a boat. Feel that? You're strengthening your shoulders and back without even standing up. Do this for 5 minutes a day, and I guarantee you'll notice a difference when reaching for that top shelf or lifting groceries. And don't worry, this isn't about getting ripped. It's about giving your joints the support they deserve, because strong muscles aren't just for athletes. They're for anyone who wants to open a pickle jar without calling for backup. Now let's pause for a second. I want you to imagine something. Picture your joints as loyal old friends. They've carried you through decades of adventures, right? Late night dances, raising kids, maybe even a few misadventures you'd rather forget. Doesn't it make sense to treat them with a little kindness in return? That's what these habits are really about. Showing up for your body the way it's shown up for you all these years. And the beauty is, you don't have to do everything at once. Start with one habit. Maybe today you'll add a sprinkle of turmeric to your soup, or tomorrow you'll try a resistance band while watching your favorite show. Small steps add up to big changes. I've seen it happen. Take Ruth, a viewer who wrote to me last month. At 76, she'd given up her weekly walks because of hip pain, but after adding gentle stretches and hydration to her routine, she's back to strolling her neighborhood with her grand dog, Benny, in tow. I forgot how much I miss the fresh air, she said. And that's the power of consistency, friends. Now, we've covered 5 habits today: gentle movement, joint-nourishing foods, smarter daily motions, hydration, and strength building. But before we wrap up, there's one last piece of the puzzle I want to share with you. It's something that ties all these habits together and turns them from tasks into a lifestyle you'll actually enjoy. So grab your favorite cup of tea, settle in, and let's finish this conversation strong, because the best is yet to come. Welcome back, friends. We've covered a lot of ground today. 5 simple, powerful habits to keep your joints feeling strong and supple. But before we wrap up, I want to share the secret sauce that makes all these habits stick. It's not a pill, a gadget, or a miracle cure. It's something far more powerful, and it's already inside you. Let me tell you about my friend Helen. At 74, she tried every joint health tip under the sun, expensive supplements, fancy gadgets, you name it, but nothing worked until she shifted her mindset. Instead of thinking, I have to fix my joints, she started saying, I get to care for my body today. That tiny shift from obligation to opportunity changed everything. She calls this kind consistency. It's not about rigid routines or punishing workouts. It's about showing up for yourself with patience, celebrating small wins, and trusting that every little effort adds up. Like the day she did just one seated leg lift and thought, well, that's better than none. Or the time she swapped her afternoon cookie for a handful of almonds and still enjoyed her cookie later. Here's the truth. Your joints don't need perfection. They need partnership. When you approach these habits with curiosity instead of criticism, you're not just building healthier joints, you're rebuilding trust with your body. And that, my friends, is where the magic happens. Now let's take a gentle walk through what we've learned, not as a checklist, but as a conversation between friends. First, we talked about moving like water, finding those moments in your day to keep your joints flowing, whether it's chair yoga during the weather report or heel raises while waiting for the kettle. Remember Margaret and her cat? That's the power of motion without pressure. Then we spice things up with food that loves your joints back. Turmeric and eggs, salmon on toast, or even a handful of walnuts. Bill's golden secret isn't just about reducing inflammation. It's about savoring meals that make you feel alive. We also chatted about moving smarter, not harder. Leaning on the counter while doing dishes, standing up like a puppet on a string. These tiny tweaks are like giving your joints a standing ovation for all they've done. And who could forget hydration? Clara's thirsty joints story still makes me smile. Water isn't just a drink. It's a love letter to your knees, hips, and shoulders. Finally, we flexed our joint armor with strength building that fits into your life. Frank's resistance bands, soup can bicep curls. It's not about lifting the world, just lifting the weight of your own possibilities. Now I want you to picture something. Imagine yourself 6 months from now. You're bending down to tie your shoes without holding your breath. You're walking through the park, feeling the breeze instead of counting your steps. You're laughing with your grandkids, fully present, not worrying about your knees. That's within your reach. But here's the thing, it starts today. Not with a grand overhaul, but with a single choice. Maybe today you'll add a pinch of turmeric to your oatmeal. Tomorrow you'll sip an extra glass of water. Next week you'll try a resistance band while watching Jeopardy. Small steps, friends. They're the quiet heroes of big change. And I want to hear about your journey. Drop a comment below and tell me, which habit are you excited to try first? Or maybe you've already found a trick that works for you. Share it. This community grows stronger when we learn from each other. If this conversation resonated with you, hit that like button. It helps others find their way here too. And if you're new, consider subscribing. We're all about practical, uplifting tips to help you thrive in your 70s, 80s, and beyond. Before I go, I'll leave you with this. Aging isn't about losing sparks. It's about discovering new ways to shine. Your joints might whisper reminders of the years, but they're also proof of every mile you've walked, every dance you've rocked, every life you've loved. Honor them, care for them, and keep stepping forward, one gentle, joyful move at a time. Thank you for spending this time with me. Now go out there and show your joints some love. You've earned it.